Looks like we have another good crowd. I think Clay counted around 65 people, so that's getting to be about the average lately. Once again, Skip Chambers can't make it. He's our other fearless leader, but he's got a real job. So he's got his priorities a little bit screwed up, but anyway, he hates missing this. He really loves coming to these, but it just can't be this time. To start with, as usual, we'd like to thank the Legion for being such gracious, helpful hosts. They've put up with us for about 3.5 years now of doing these, and it's just worked out great. So, and also Catch TV is here again. Local Community Access TV. This is their, I think, their 9th appearance in a row here, 9th month in a row. So that's really a neat thing for us to get them to come here. And they were short of personnel this week and didn't know if they could make it, but they some guys jumped through hoops, and here they are. So thanks a lot for making it. I'll give you a little rundown of the next couple, 3 months. Next month, August, is Rich Holdeman of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, and he's going to give a program on the history of the Covenanter family, in the cemetery, and something about the Underground Railroad. I don't know a lot of specifics, but it should be pretty good. Now that one, I want to make one little announcement. This one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to start a half hour early. So in other words, the speaker usually starts around 12:30. With Rich next month in August, he's going to start right at 12 noon because he teaches a class at IU and he has to get back out there. But we'll put that in the announcements, or Brother George will, actually, and our communications advisor. So, it should work. Everybody just come a little bit, a few minutes early. It should work out all right. September will be our own Clay Stuckey, who's given a couple of 3 presentations already. And he's going to give the second part of his 2-part series about local stone mills. Back in January, he gave the first part of this, which dealt with just the Bloomington portion of those stone mills and their history. But this time, in September, he's going to finish that out with talking about the whole county, not just Bloomington proper. So we're looking forward to that. October, we just figured out just a couple of weeks ago, it's going to be Jake Butler, who's from the Butler Winery people, I think. And he wanted to do a presentation about the history of the train depots in Bloomington. So that's something that's a little bit different. So, we look forward to that, too. And George has a little short announcement to make, I hope. I hope it's short.
Well, if I stood up for this, now all of you that are on the email distribution list, if there's anyone that's not like to be included on it, please give me your email address in the session. Jot it down on a napkin or come over and tell them I'll put it on my cell phone, and you'll be included. If you want to be ever removed from it, send me a note on that too. We currently have 7 or 8 presentations that have been recorded by Catch TV that we will be releasing. I sent several of them out last month, but we will have the full library available to you. I'll send out the names, the distribution of what they are, the URL link to be able to get to them. And you can always, through my email, get back with me if you have any problems with it. Always interested in being able to help. If you ever have any suggestions for additional programs, please let us know. We love your ideas. Thank you all for coming.
All right, and then Randy Richardson would like to make a short announcement.
There's going to be a meeting of the Sweet Owen Genealogy and History Club at Spencer in the Tivoli Theater in the requesting room at 6 o'clock on Monday, August the 8th, and I'm going to pass these around, and if you have an interest, please do. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. So today we have David Lemon. He's one of our own. He's been a member of the club for quite a while, and he's another old BHS graduate. Not too old. He's 2 years younger than I am, but He just had a birthday a couple of days ago. So, in David's own words, what his program is about, we drive the streets of Bloomington all the time, probably not thinking of why or where the street names came from. Some streets have had their names changed, and some are named for famous people, presidents of the United States, mayors, city councilmen, IU presidents, professors, have all had streets named for them or renamed for them. With photos and a little history, I will try to tell the story behind all these names. So, David?
Thanks so much, fan club. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks the Legion for holding these, letting us hold these every month here. And thanks for all of you attending. I have come for probably a year or two, probably 2 years, and this is great. You know, no obligation, no dues. It's perfect. Anyway, I would like to introduce myself. And by the way, there's my wife right out there who puts up with me all the time, Margaret. Thanks for coming. No problem. The Lemon family has lived in Monroe County since 1824, 192 years. We probably, as far as my name, it's always been Lemon, but although in census records it's been spelled numerous different ways. But lemon, like the lake and like the fruit, is what it is. I've lived here our family's lived here long enough that even if I don't know you and you've lived here in Monroe County, we might be relatives. As this first slide shows, you notice there's no Main Street right now in Bloomington. And actually, this is a little bit of a misnomer because in 1818, when the newly appointed county commissioners laid out the first lot sales around the courthouse square, they also named the streets in that area in a meeting on August 14th, 1818. Next. The sale of lots took place in June and November of 1818. The sales were very successful, possibly because one of the main expenses for the sales was supplying whiskey to the prospective buyers. The street names, as you can see on the map, are different from today. Let me walk over. This is looking as if this is. Okay. Yes, sir. This is as if this is 3rd Street. It's actually 3rd Street is just about the township line between Bloomington Township and Perry Township, which at the time of in 1820, this was actually called the Seminary Township because of the future Indiana University being built. But the commissioners named the streets, as you can see, that do not match the streets of today. There's North Street, which is 6th Street, South Street, which is 5th or Kirkwood, East Street is Walnut West College, Spring is Morton, I believe, Cherry Street, Madison. Maybe I'm wrong. Cherry Street is actually named after a family, not a tree. And then Poplar Street's Madison. So Washington Street is 7th Street, Water Street is 4th Street. Walnut is Washington, Blue Street is, what comes after Blue Street? Lincoln, thanks. Back Street is Grant. So, if you notice, it didn't say Main Street on any of those east, north, and west, south streets. So, Bloomington's first incorporation as a town was in September 1828. For some reason, the government was allowed to expire sometime before 1845, when in January of that year, the State Assembly enacted a second incorporation of the town. The next map, which is really hard to read, but it's in the on the city website under the clerk's office, and it shows the town square, the courthouse, and it has the directions. But if you look real closely, you can see that says East Main Street, South Main, West Main. So by then they changed the names and made it. Added the Main Street to it. But you can go on the website and see this map, and it has the locations of different merchants around the square. Kind of messy, but oh well. As we talked about before, Bloomington streets have been named to honor Presidents Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Monroe, Jackson, Madison, Grant, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Teddy, not FDR, and Coolidge, and maybe others. By the way, if you want to chime in, I'm not real sensitive, so if you want to correct me or add something, that's great. Yes, sir. Yeah, there's no record of that in the commissioner's records. The only reason I can think I don't think there was any family named Bloom or that has been conjectured, but it probably was more like the flowers and so on that they saw when they first came. So, but it doesn't really say in the commissioner's records. By the way, a lot of this information I wanted to pass along comes from the Monroe County History Center. So, and Dana Beth and Linda Steins are both here. Dana Beth's the new director, and Linda is the new president. So, thanks for coming. Make me more nervous. Next. They have a lot of these have been named for presidents of the university, local townspeople, developers, IU faculty, mayors, and one governor, as far as I know. To the best of my knowledge, a large change in names came right after the Civil War in 1866. Not sure about that because the City Council's minutes book from that year is missing. The reason I wanted to, well, this is like snowballed like silly. I've gotten into this too much, but the reason that I wanted to find out about this was because Grant Street and Lincoln weren't named that. I knew they weren't named that when Bloomington was laid out. So that's what led to this, and that's one of the reasons why the streets at about that time were changed. So anyway, this picture is, and you've probably seen all these pictures. This is out of the newspaper from our Bloomington of yesteryear. But that's looking from what we call 6th Street now, down what we call College now, and looking south. And you can, right at the figure out how to use this. Right about there, you can see the top of one of the Indiana college buildings. By then it was Indiana University. Next. If you turn around and from about the same spot and look the other way, looking north up College, you see that same walkway, and you see what looks like piles of stone. Well, back in the early days of Bloomington and Monroe County, if you want a rock on your road, they'd bring it to you, but you you would also have to go out and hill in front of your home and crush it, which, you know, it probably wouldn't go over too well today. I'm just guessing. An early town ordinance ordered all able-bodied males to perform 2 days of labor per year on town streets and roads. So, and that wouldn't go over too well. Next. You've probably all seen this. This is a postcard. It's a photo of College looking north, looking south, I'm sorry, up to 11th Street from the railroad overpass. Y'all know where that is, pretty much. And as you see, it's all residential. Nice houses. No pavement, but nice looking street. Probably 1910, I'm guessing. The railroad came through about 1906, 1907, so this would have been in that time frame. Next. These are photos, of course, of East Main, Walnut Street, and more recent, Tovey Shoes used to be. You can see the Tovey Shoes right here. Probably it's the 60s, and this is today. Next. This is Kirkwood. Originally, it was South Street, South Main, 5th Street, and Kirkwood. And it is looking east from the entrance of the university. And as we've been looked at this before, you notice it was mostly a residential area. Next. Now we saw this this is from the IU archives, and he had cut it, the program last time. It only showed one side of this, but this is a stereo view where they'd slide the picture down, and it makes the photo, I don't think it makes it 3D, but it makes it a little bit more alive. But this is looking from, I'm sure it's looking from Franklin Hall, which is at the corner of Kirkwood and Indiana. So, and there's Kirkwood, and it's all homes. Pardon? Yep, middle of the summer. So you can see that it was before 1907 because there's the old courthouse. Right? Hey, good. Wow. And you can see church steeples. You see the First Christian Church has kind of a square steeple. Yeah. And I'm guessing that steeple on the left side would have been like College Avenue Methodist Church, which is where the convention center is now. But that's a really neat picture because it gives you a overview of the town. Next. This is Kirkwood again, looking from the west. That's probably from Walnut Street, looking west. It's not a very good picture, but it was of Kirkwood, so I took it. Well, we're coming to that. I think it's right there, but so and that leads into my next picture. No, that doesn't. That's looking from the courthouse to the south side of the square. You want to point out the Methodist Church again? It's right there. This was I think this photo that we see these all the time. It's about 1891. Yeah, yeah, just past the church is Old Central School, high school, and elementary school. But anyway, it looks like to me this is still dirt. Next. Yeah, what was that?
That was a depot, it was a train depot.
Okay.
It's Mona, it's the second Mona. Yep.
Thank.
This, it's to the west.
There's your answer. Dan Kirkwood was renamed from Fifth Street. By that time, it was Fifth Street. Was renamed in 1884 for Daniel Kirkwood, who was a longtime math and astronomy professor at IU. Next. This was hard to make out, but this is a map of what's called Seminary Township, or part of Seminary Township. At the top, where the inn is, that would be about 3rd Street. And what's funny is the streets were named, again, by the township government, I'm supposing, or probably the county commissioners, but they have their streets around the Seminary Square, which is where OBHS was and where the university was north and south and east and west. But when you would come into Seminary Square from the north, that street's called Center Street, and it would connect to College Avenue. So all I can say is, I mean, if every township was allowed to name all of its own streets, we'd never find anything, because the streets would all be connected, and then all of a sudden you'd change. And some people have asked me before, well, why does this street not go all the way through? Or why is this street like Tap Road, Country Club, used to be called Creosote Lane unofficially, Winslow Road, Rogers Road? Well, basically because none of those streets met. That's the main reason. So the Seminary Township was called that because they sold lots in it to help pay for building and the construction of the new seminary, the new college. Okay, the date is, I have that. No, that, for some reason, the county clerk took that, and I don't know what she was doing, but Pat Haley, she marked it up. The map is from Deed Book A, which we have at the History Center, and it's dated March 9th, 1820. It's neat. A lot of the early deed books had maps of the different platted towns around the county, and so they would enter them in the deed book to show that they'd been surveyed and the lots had been laid out. I don't know if anybody knows this, but there are 2 Buena Vistas in Monroe County.
What do the numbers mean?
Those are lots, different lots. I think they go up and down. They go, for instance, this way, this way, this way, this way. But that's not all of the Seminary Township. After they sold these lots to help start the building process in 1830, the Seminary Township became the Perry Township, and it's what we know now as the whole township. And they sold more lots because of that. The next, this is probably from IU archives too. But anyway, it's at the seminary, and it's in 1922, and that is William Lowe Bryan, president of the university, and he's dedicating a plaque for the 100-year centennial of the first building built on the campus. I've asked around trying to figure out where that tablet might be, because if it's still there, it's right in the middle of Kroger's. The one at seminary. I'll shoot next. This is a map, and I think it's from my archives too, but anyway, X marks the spot where that 100-year dedication of IU's founding was located, because they tell you that it says on the information about that photo was that it was about 6 feet outside the back entrance to that seminary building. We always called the seminary building where we went to school at the end of the circle right here. We called that the seminary building, but actually it was called the second college building. And it was erected after the first building was burnt. So these buildings were not all here at the same time, but it just shows on that campus where the buildings were. Yes? Okay.
When you keep talking seminary,
Mm-hmm.
what the post office is now? Seminary Park?
Right. Mm-hmm. It was called a seminary because in that day and age, any places of higher learning was called a seminary. Indiana set up the seminary in 1820. 1828, Indiana became a college. 1838, it became a university. But as you see, there's the railroad. That's the Beeline Trail. Walnut Street, College Avenue coming right into it. Next. There's a lovely picture of bricks, and that's 6th Street, also known as North Main Street. You can see the Hotel Graham up there. This is probably right at the intersection of Washington and 6th. Next. As you see, I really got hard up to find photos and so on, so I went to Google and made my own. This, of course, is Washington Street, which originally was Walnut Street, and then changed to Washington, even though there was already a Washington on the north side, which was 7th Street. So I'm confused, and I wrote this. So, next. And that's down by the Coke plant. That's Washington also. Just another picture of Washington Street. Next. This is 4th Street, of course, and it was called Water Street. And I'm guessing it was called Water Street because there was water available along the street, wells and so on. Next. This is at 421 East 4th in 1917, and it's now a parking lot and it's at the northeast corner of Dunn and 4th Street. So 421, and it's still gravel, dirt. Next. Here's a photo from, I think this is IU Archives too. It's at the old City Hall, which was at 4th and Walnut. It's now the Waldron Art Center, and this is on the 4th Street side. And in the background, you can see Bloomington Power Plant, I believe they called it. Yeah. And that's the gas silo. What would you call that? Storage tank, that's it. So the main thing I'd notice about this picture is nobody's on this side of that ladder. I guess they don't want to walk under that ladder. So, but I think the firemen are practicing walking up tall ladders. They lock themselves out. Okay, next. This is the main plant for the Showers Brothers, and it's had 3 names. The streets had 3 names. Originally, it was Spring Street. Then it was called Railroad Street. And then in 1888, it was named Morton for our Civil War governor of Indiana. As you can see, it was a huge complex. At one time, Showers was the largest furniture manufacturer in the world, I believe. Next. Okay, this is down that street as the Monon Depot. As it says, it's probably, I'm guessing, around 1915, but it's kind of hard to tell. But there is a buggy there. So that's the Monon, and go ahead. Next.
That was the 3rd station.
The 3rd station. Thank you, George. This is the corner of 4th Street and Gentry Street. And Gentry Street was named for the circus and business owner Henry Gentry, who lived from 1872 to 1940. He owned the Pullman Hotel just north of the depot on 5th Street in the early 20th century. Next, and by the way, that street, I think, is, even with that hotel there, I think that street's still there. It's about like, it's an alley. Of course, it's always been almost like an alley. So, okay, this is a famous house, the Ira Batman house. It's on the corner of 5th and Madison, which was Cherry Street at one time. Yes. What's it called? The Garrett. All right, the Garrett. But there's also a funeral home. How about that? Probably in the 20s. I'd say in the 20s. Next. As you can tell, it's hard to find a picture of Grant Street, but here it is at the southeast corner of 3rd and Grant, which originally was the was back Street. That was it. Next. This is a photo I believe I found on the archives too, and that's Dunn Street, South Dunn, and I I have no idea who these people are. It'd probably be great grandma and grandpa. So I think probably there could have been a little lover's quarrel. But they are using the same pillow, as you see, to sit on. Yeah, I'm sure she is. I like her hat, too. It's pretty neat. And he's got a hanky in his pocket. Those are neat little things. Dunn Street, of course, is named for the Dunn family that sold property to the university to move out to its present location. Moses Dunn, correct? Next. Here's Dunn Street from Kirkwood, looking south. Again, this is from the Courier Tribune, 1973. Scenes from yesteryear. Next. This is what we call Indiana Avenue now, looking north from probably 4th Street, or I don't think it's 3rd Street, it's someplace in between. There's Franklin Hall again. But it's a fairly interesting story about Indiana Avenue. It was originally named Gamble Street after a city councilman, Robert Gamble. He lived on the corner of Kirkwood and Gamble. And the reason for the name change after the family had moved away from town, this is from the university. And it's probably just about a quote. Because of the name, Gamble suggested an immoral activity and proper young women would not live on the street, they decided to change it to Indiana Avenue.
Let's change it back.
Good idea. Next. This is like 4th Street, about 4th Street and Indiana, or Gamble, and there's the observatory that probably Daniel Kirkwood helped build. Okay.
And the original one, what's there now is still the original.
Yes, it's still there.
Screen's a little bit bigger nowadays.
Next. Again, I give up finding that Henderson Street picture, but Henderson Street was named for Carrie Henderson. Go ahead and change it. Next. Carrie was a very young mayor of Bloomington in 1876 to 1878. Terms then were just 2 years, which sounds pretty good to me. He was a law graduate of IU in 1862, and after leaving Bloomington, he went to Washington, D.C., worked as an attorney and law clerk in the postal office. He died in Washington in 1880 at 36. So, and if you couldn't tell, this is from the Monroe County History Center. Next. Where are we? Okay. This is Rogers Street, and this is, of course, RCA. RCA used to be located at the corner of, I guess that's Patterson. I still call it Grimes Lane, and Rogers Street on the south side of town, near Sweetgrass. Now there are doctor's offices, and Cook is in that area. So in 1940, RCA came to town to make radios, basically, and bought this factory from the Showers brothers, who had I believe it was a cabinet factory on this location. So, but this is right around that time frame. Next. Another picture of RCA. Next. And this is who, this is I never get this name right. I think it's Aquila, or Aquila. Anybody? Aquila Rogers. Aquilla. He was born in Bloomington Township in 1819, so he'd been here a while. He settled in Perry Township. He was the sheriff 1862 and 1864. He served in several other government capacities in the county over the years, and I don't know if he's related to Ralph Rogers or not. Anybody know that? There have been quite a few descendants of this man. Next. This is Fest Street, or a house on Fest Street. And again, it was hard to find a photo of Fest Street, so I found this in the interim report, I believe. And this was named for a city councilman, Fred Vess, who lived on that street. So, nice to have your own street. Next. This is West Allen Street, 1908 West Allen Street. Anybody know what this business is? It's still there. Wilbert, right. Sexton, the Sexton family owned it. Wilbert Vault Company. It's where we all end up. Anyway, Allen Street was named for William J. Allen, captain of the Civil War. In the Civil War, he owned a hardware store on the south side of the square. He was into real estate, and I don't have a picture of him. Next. This is Kinser Pike, and that is Cascades Golf Course. The clubhouse for the course used to be off of Kinser Pike, and the first tee then, and I don't know if you play golf, anybody plays golf, but the first tee then is what is the 8th tee now, the little hollow where the creek runs through. So, no, not very many trees on that course. We are looking south. So Fritz Terrace would be on the right. The Kinser Pike was named for Frank Kinser. He was a past county auditor, owner of a large tract of land in that area. The Cascades Golf Course, I believe, was built about 1925, and that's a few years after that, but very close to that time frame. Next. This is Woodlawn Field, and again, I couldn't find a, yeah, what'd you call it? The Green Ghetto. Behind it, you see 10th Street Memorial Stadium. On your left would be 10th Street, and on your right, or on the right, is the Hyper Building, Wildermuth, whatever they call it nowadays. And below is Woodlawn. Woodlawn was originally named Sluss Avenue, and it was changed to Woodlawn. I'm not quite sure when. The Sluss family were early settlers, sheriffs, and held other offices in the county. I went to school with Ernie Sluss, and I think they're all descendants of that family. Next. Okay, here's another Google picture. It's Atwater Avenue. Anybody know why it's Atwater Avenue? Come on, this is easy. No. Next. You got it. There he is. Amzie Atwater was and I don't know where in the world he got that name. It's not that early. He was a Latin professor at IU in the late 1800s, and he was also the organizer of the Monroe County Historical Society, which began in 1905. Amzie Atwater. Next. Pete Ellis Drive. This is this is on East 3rd Street, and Pete Ellis Drive. You all know where that is? It's kind of across from the mall to the north. You go there, you take it off of 3rd Street to get to the post office. And between McDonald's and the Colonel. Yes. Anyway, Pete Ellis was the owner. That's why it was Ellis Greenhouse. And it's probably named that because it was the only business there.
But that's one of the few that has two names, like Pete Ellis.
I know. Mm-hmm. Boy, the signs are too expensive to have too many with two names on it. Next. Okay, another Google picture. This is Bryan Avenue. It's on the east side, in the High Street, 3rd Street area, between 3rd and 10th Street. It's named for President William Bryan. He was the IU president for 35 years, 1902 to 1937. And he lived to be like 90 something. So a little trivia about Mr. President Bryan was that his middle name, he changed his middle name to Lowe, L-O-W-E, to honor his new wife by taking her maiden name. I didn't know you could do that. Of course, back in that day, a lot of people didn't even have middle names. So, anyway, William Bryan. Next, Wiley Street on the fairly near south side, south of 2nd, south of 1st. Wiley is named, of course, for the family of the first president of Indiana. Next. This is Andrew Wiley's obelisk, I guess you'd call it, out at Rose Hill Cemetery. And I don't know if they still do this, but this was, I think, 1941. They have a Founders Day, which is the day that Indiana was founded. And there's William Lowe Bryan on the left. That is Thana Wiley. She married, let me get this straight. She married a grandson of Andrew Wiley named Reddick, and they own the farm that Bloomington High School South is located today. So, and the fellow on the right is Herman Wells, who was, I believe he was president at that time. The fellow to the inside of him is Governor Schricker, from the Indiana governor at that time. The stone is written in Latin, and I don't know if the other, I think the... Andrew Wiley died. He liked to go out and chop wood with an axe. So he went out one day, and this was this is 1851. He was still president, and he cut himself with the axe, And everything seemed to be okay, but he contracted pneumonia and died very shortly afterwards. So, next. This is a neat little postcard of, they called it the quadrangle back then, but it's Jordan Avenue, and it's looking, you know, we had this roundabout there that was high tech, you know. So what does IU do? They mow it under. They change the street, get rid of the roundabout. The first roundabout in Bloomington. Next. And this is David Starr, Starr Jordan, who was the president, the seventh IU president from 1884 to 1891. That's who the Jordan Avenue and the Jordan River are named for. And he left IU to become president of a new university in on the West Coast called Stanford. Probably a little step up, maybe. Next. Next. I mean, he probably got more money. How's that? Okay, this is another lovely photo. It's Swain. Can you see it? It says Swain Drive. It's on the east side also. Swain is named for. Next. This guy, Joseph Swain, who was also an IU president, 1893 to 1902. And a little trivia, he was the first Indiana-born IU president. Next. Dodd Street. I'm sure we've all driven on it. Next. This is Cleland Dodds, who was the mayor from 1878 to 1885. You could tell how small Bloomington was then, and it's really not that much bigger now. But he was the mayor, as I said. He was also a doctor. He was a son-in-law of Andrew Wiley too. He married a daughter of Andrew Wiley, the first president. Next. Here we go again. It's Grimes Lane and South Walnut Street. Grimes Lane's named for Ivan Grimes. Lived from 1828 to 1910, and he lived on the corner of Walnut and what would become Grimes Lane. Ivan Grimes, forever in history. Next. Here's an interesting name for a street. It's called Vermilion. This is on the far south side, almost to what used to be Wee Willie's, and that's Walnut Street, of course. And it's named for Joseph Clyde Vermilion, who was a druggist who built several homes in that area. Next. This is Smith Avenue, goes by the Chocolate Mousse. That's Walnut and Smith. It's more like an alley again, but it was hard to find this, but I did find out it's named for Milton J. Toby Smith, 1832 to 1892. He was a Bloomington jeweler on the south side of the square. And Toby owned land at the east end of this street, which ends up almost to Henderson. Toby Smith. Next. Ballantyne Drive. This is named for, those are nice flowers. This is named for the Reverend Elisha Ballantyne, who was an IU professor and a Presbyterian minister. He taught math, ancient and modern language. Next. From 1854 to his death in 1886. Next slide. And there he is. Looks like a Presbyterian minister, doesn't he? Sorry, Presbyterians. Ballantine Hall, that big monolith, ugly building on campus, is named for him. Next. This is Hunter Avenue, another alley-looking road, street. It's named for General Morton C. Hunter. Next. Who graduated from the IU School of Law. He was a state representative. He organized the Indiana Civil War 82nd Infantry. He was a congressman several terms, quarry owner, and he lived in the large house at the top of the hill, 11th and Walnut, that everybody's very sad was torn down. But it was a great house, neat house. I think an area out west of 17th and Arlington is named Hunter Valley, and it's his quarries is why it's named that. Next. Maxwell Lane, pretty far south. I'm surprised that they didn't name other street earlier than this. Next. It's named for the David Maxwell family. This guy is one of the reasons we're here, really, because he was very important in the early part of not only Bloomington but of the state. He lived from 1788 to 1854. He was the first president of the IU Board of Trustees. He married into the Dunn family also. He was a delegate to the convention framing the Indiana Constitution. He bought lots in Bloomington at that sale in 1818. He was a state legislator, senator, served on the IU board for 30 years. Some say the most important citizen of early Bloomington. I believe it. He was also mayor and postmaster of Bloomington. In his spare time, he was a physician. Okay, well, that would probably be the same thing. Maxwell Street. Where's it exactly? No, Maxwell Street. So it goes north and south? Okay. Okay. There you go. So that might have been named before Maxwell Lane. Next. Okay, this is a picture of a sign that says Waldron Street. Next. John Waldron was a tanner, a banker, a landowner on the west side, which is where this street is on between Rogers and the cemetery. I think in that area. It's part of what? Prospect Hill. Okay. His descendants established the Waldron Arts Center, the former City Hall at 4th and Walnut. He was also part owner of the Waldron Hill Buskirk Spoke Factory, now what I still call 3rd Street Park. What's it called now? Buskirk, isn't it, or Buskirk Park? Waldron Hill Buskirk. Well, you work for the parks, right? So, but that land was given after we didn't need spokes anymore. It was given to the city of Bloomington. So, next. So, okay, so far lots of famous people have been pictured. Can anyone guess what famous person lived here? No. Any more? No. Give up? Me. No. Go back. There's more of a story. So this is basically the place I grew up in from 3rd grade to when I left home. And it's on Ladd Avenue. Anybody know where Ladd Avenue is? You got it. It's Country Club Edition was subdivision was built in the 50s, probably maybe late 40s, early 50s. It's just south of the Country Club. Anyway, the originally it was Harold Wagmiller. It was his farm, and Harold was the president of what later became Wagmiller Bender Lumber Company. And Harold was a big golfer, and he played at Bloomington Country Club. And he named that street, Ladd Avenue, for one of his horses. Did you get that? Other streets in that subdivision were called Fairway and Green. So he carried on the golfing theme. Next. Miller Drive, south side, near the school, the South Side School. BHS is what it really is, not south. But Miller Drive, next, was named for State Senator Robert Miller from the 30s and 40s. He was also worked in the city council and so on. Next. This is off of 10th Street, between Dunn and Grant, I believe. It's called Pro Avenue. And it's named for, next. It's named for dentist Dr. Fred J. Pro. This is in the early 20s, more than likely. He developed that area. It's hard to believe that would be subdivided that late in time, but it was, and that's probably one of his spec homes or the model for that area. So next. That's this is the corner, I believe, of Alice and Harold Street. It's in that same basic subdivision, and it's named for the dentist's son and daughter. A lot of people did that. Next. This is in Broadview. Any Broadview grads here? Me. I went to Broadview. Broadview Elementary. This is Graham Drive. And next. And there's the corner of Milton and Graham. Next. And there's Graham Motors, which is now the convention center. Those streets were named. The Graham was named for Mr. Graham, and the Milton was named for his son, who was Milton Graham, William Milton Graham Jr. Next. That's the son, Milton, who carried on the business after his father passed away. Graham Motors. And next. There they are. Next. And the Graham Hotel. I'm not sure he actually built it, but he must have, or wouldn't have had his name on it. Okay, this is looking from the courthouse lawn, and it's looking northwest. That's the corner of 6th and College, the northwest corner of 6th and College. And if you notice right behind it, that is the old Bowles Hotel that they tore down part of it to build the Graham. And later on, they tore down the Bowles, which is behind it. Next. Okay. Okay, this is Lemon Lane. Yo. You know where Lemon Lane is? Okay. Uh, Lemon Lane leads by Hinsenberg School, which is out off of Vernal Pike, which is north and west of town, and it leads to the dump out there. And now it's a super fun site where PCBs were dumped many years ago. So Tom didn't name this himself. Tom was I found out he's my first cousin, one time removed, which is, I don't know what's the difference between a first cousin one time, but he's a second cousin too. But he didn't name that. The Republicans who came after him actually named that street. Yeah, I think Happy Jack Hooker named that street. Next. And that's Tom. He was mayor from 48 to 52, built Lake Lemon. He was also mayor from, he didn't end up seeing his lake built for him because it was finished in 53 and he'd lost the election because the Republicans came in with Eisenhower in 52. But he was reelected in 56. And then he was elected again in 60, and he left in 62. But he cut the tree. Yeah, I knew that had come up. He cut the trees on Kirkwood because people asked him to widen the street because it had become a business street, heavily. So they had to widen the street, and they cut the trees. Yes, I've heard that my whole life. But Tom died in 1986, ended up in Florida. His son is Ridley Lemon. I don't know if any of you know him. We call him Ridley. He's Thomas Ridley Lemon. But there were already 3 Toms before Ridley, so he ended up being Ridley. There's only one other street that I even had a question about, and I really would like to, if anybody knows this, but and there are lots of other streets. I only did the city streets. I mean, there are weird names of roads out in the county, that's for sure. But I'm still trying to figure out, one of my favorite street names is Lois Lane. Who's Lois? You know, anybody know? Well, I know that. But it's not named for Superman's date, no. It was probably on Wagmiller's farm too, so maybe it's his wife or something. So anyway, that's all I have. I know I've rambled, but this was fun for me. I enjoyed it. So thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir. No, that Lemon family. When I first started doing my genealogy, I found a Lemon family in southern Monroe County, but my family came to Bean Blossom in Washington Township. So I thought, well, it's awful coincidental in a small number of the population that there were 2 Lemons, but Buck's family is from southern Monroe and northern Lawrence County, but no relation. Yep. Good. That's right. My mom's 93, and she's hanging in there. She's a great lady. Bloomington High School, the Bloomington High School, the one and only. Anyone else? Well, thank you. I really appreciate your attention.